What's up, guys? Sam Bruce, Sam MMA Fan Bronx on Twitter. Just finished watching UFC 253. Israel Adesanya defeats Paulo Costa in the second round via TKO. Not a very competitive fight. Not what many envisioned. This was one of those split fights where, you know, the conventional wisdom seemed to be Izzy needed to wear Paulo down, avoid the power early, and then wear him out and either win a decision or finish him later. And from the beginning, the fight had it was almost Romero-esque in some ways, except Izzy was more dedicated to tearing up the leg, and Paulo was a little more aggressive than Romero was. But at the same time, he was not as effective at flurrying and giving Izzy something to think about. If you remember the Romero fight, Izzy tried to engage a few times with the hands, and every time he did, Romero would bring back some big action, and that kind of really put a halt to Izzy's offense with his hands. Actually, to tell you the truth, I mean, even to this day, I still think that Romero won that fight, and I know I'll get a lot of backlash, but to me, Romero won that fight just off of a few flurries. It wasn't much offense from either guy, but in a football game, if you realize you're going up against a an opponent that has like a firepower offense, you want to keep them off the field by running the ball, just pretty much pounding the ball into the ground, and you can win a low scoring game just ball control. Why can't you do it in the fight? That was my take on that Izzy Romero fight. But nonetheless, Izzy got the decision. Moving on tonight, it was like just styles make fights. Just let you know, styles make fight, and that was super impressive from Adesanya. Paulo really had nothing to offer. He tried a few head kicks. He couldn't get anything going. Izzy was just faster. He was angling off. He just wasn't there in range for Paulo. And he tore up his leg. He had about 20 leg kicks in the first round. I mean, and you could just see he was wearing it on his leg. And then he just started firing all over the place. I'm actually watching the post-fight show with Paul Felder and Brendan Fitzgerald right now, and they got Izzy up here, but I'm not really watching it. It was an amazing fight by him. The whole card, there was some great action. I was looking on Twitter, and at some point, I think once, either during the Eubanks and Vieira fight, fans were starting to say, unimpressed with the card, kind of boring card. But it really picked up at that point. Vieira and Eubanks really threw down and put on a good show. Vieira won, I think by most people's estimation, either 2-1 or 3-0. I thought that Eubanks did some good things in the closing round, but she had already gotten behind. It was just a very tactical fight, but it was also action-packed. Fight after that was Kai Kara France versus Brandon Royval. I wasn't too familiar with Brandon Royval, more familiar with Kai Kara France. But man, did Royval just really impressed with like the swagger, the entertainment value. I mean, just throwing all kinds of kicks and punches, spinning techniques. There was a time where he got dropped. He jumps right back up and throws a spinning back elbow and dropped Scott Carr France. His jujitsu was just very creative. He was threatening in the first round, and then I believe it was the second round. He locks up a pretty much like a standing guillotine. It gets to the floor. He has to readjust a little bit, and then he finishes with the guillotine. That was a really nice fight. If I was the UFC, in the flyweight division. We're always talking about how the flyweights don't have name value, and you can't be a boring guy and be a flyweight. You need to be a little obnoxious, have a little flair, a little personality. If I was the UFC, I would match him up against the winner of Garbrandt Figueiredo. I know people might say, "Oh, that's too fast." This guy, he was a champion, I think, in the LFA, is what I heard. You know, if it's too fast, okay, what's the big deal? He'll lose, and then he can go back, and then he can work his way back up. But you just don't have a lot of stars, and to me, that he has star potential. So I would definitely match him up with the Figueredo Garbrandt winner. What was next? Next after that was it? Yeah, I think that was the last fight before the Blachowicz versus Reyes fight for the vacant light heavyweight title. And you know, I thought that Blachowicz was gonna win it. You got to kind of see guys ascending. You gotta sometimes you gotta forget about what you thought you knew about fighters. What has Blachowicz been showing us these last few fights? I mean, the last fight he lost was to Maheta Thiago Santos, and even in that fight, it was a hell of a fight. It was a spirited fight, back and forth. He got finished, but nothing to be ashamed of. He went for it, and then after that, I think he had like three fights. I think he three finishes or something like that. Yeah, I beat Rocco. I know that Corey Anderson, and I want to say he beat Jacare, and just very impressive performances. You know, I really believed, and I still believe, and I said this, and people are arguing me right now on my Twitter timeline that hey, if he had fought John Jones tonight, it might have taken a little longer, but John Jones would have tasted the floor and been finished. This is not the John Jones that you knew back in 2011, starting a title fight with a flying knee. This is not the guy who head kicked Daniel Cormier or the guy who dominated Alexander Gustafsson in a rematch. This is a slowed down John Jones. And if the judges were watching his last two fights, he'd be 0-2 in his last two fights. That's my opinion. But I've rewatched those fights. He lost a lot. He lost the first three rounds to Reyes, and then he won the last two. What's that? That's a 48-47 loss. It should have been. And then I don't remember the Santos fight particularly. I just remember that it was 2-2 going into the fifth round, and he clearly lost the fifth round. So that's another 48-47 loss that he should have on his record, and you should have had the title uh, change hands. But those things didn't happen, and I see a John Jones who is slowing down, not defensively. Luke Thomas talks about this a lot. He's still defensively conscious, but his offense is kind of slowed down, and actually that makes his defense worse because the peak John Jones, you have so much to worry about. You're always till the day he retires, you're gonna have to worry about those oblique kicks coming forward on him. But you would have so much else to worry about: spinning techniques, lots of takedowns, diversity array of takedowns, and the actual power to finish those takedowns. You don't have that anymore. Apologies for that messy background, but it is what it is. I have to clean my kitchen. Um, so I think that Jan is worthy of wearing the title. Now, obviously, he lost to Santos, and like I was just saying, Santos, in my opinion, beat Jones. He's actually the first and only person still to this day to actually get a judge's scorecard off of John Jones. But he's been out. And, the show must go on. Just same thing like after John Jones had the incident where he hit the pregnant woman, was stripped of the title. Show had to go on. So DC won a vacant championship, and he defended, etc. So Jan is worthy of wearing gold. Congratulations to Polish Power, Jan Blachowicz. I thought he would win. And that was that. And then, as I mentioned, Izzy capped it off by just schooling Paulo Costa. It's always amazing when you have those. And actually, you know, the Romero fight aside, I picked Izzy in this fight, and I picked him in the fight against Whitaker. And in the Whitaker fight and in this fight, lots of people were saying, "Oh, this is a pick 'em. We don't know." And I was convinced, more so in the Whitaker fight. I'll be honest, but I was convinced that it wasn't going to be a pick 'em. That Israel was going to pick him apart, and whoop his ass. And he did that. He did that tonight, and I was really surprised by that. Man, you guys are getting more of my apartment than I really wanted to show because it's a little bit of a disorganized mess, but whatever. That's my recap of UFC 253. It was always worth the money. What I love the most is like the walkouts. I love the cool walkouts. And I literally I pay for these. I never stream. I don't want anything falling out. And one thing that I'm kind of mad about under the ESPN era is that they don't pump the music like they used to. Like, there's too much talking, whether it's Megan O'Leary or John Ennis. Hey, man, y'all got to figure out another time. Not during their walkout, not in the middle of their walkout. I don't want to see Megan O'Leary in that pit area as the fighters walking out talking over their walkout. I know you think that you're talking them up, but it's better to just for us to experience their walkout, their personality, who they are. You got these uniforms, you just got so much uniformity now. The walkouts is one of the last bastions where they get to show their personality, and you guys are talking all over it. Let them do their thing, whether it's just walking out, running out, basking in it. But let's see them, pump that up, and let's see their walk. Let's see the people with them, and that's what I'm paying for, man. I'm not paying, all due respect, for during that walkout to hear Olivia and Anik, drowning out the music that's playing and just like taking some of the attention. I know they think that they're building them up, but to me, they're taking the attention off of the fighter who's coming out. Silence is golden in that situation. Those are my thoughts, and let me know what you think. You can comment below or hit me on Twitter. Again, Sam, MMA fan Bronx. It was a good night to fight, in my opinion.